a full house. Um, my name is Ken Coughlin. I'm co-chair of the CB7 Transportation Committee. Welcome, and this is Sophia Vella,
Hi.
my co-chair. This is our February 2026 meeting. We did have an agenda item that was joint with HHS, which this afternoon, the applicant decided they weren't ready to present. So they're
Oh,
they're gonna come next month.
oh, no.
Sorry,
Very late notice that we received.
I got it at about 4:10.
So long.
So, but
Not having you manage.
Sarah Lee was downstairs. I was able to head her off at the pass. But, um,
And we want to announce the absences.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So our waiver, we have one waiver for illness, Carrie Alexander. Should be on Zoom somewhere. And Andrew Ridgey is traveling and won't come. No waiver. So with that, I guess we gotta approve the agenda. All in favor of approving the agenda? Aye. Anybody opposed? Aye. It's approved. And so we were gonna have a loading zone request for a building on 106th Street, which we thought would be a good prelude to the pièce de résistance for tonight, which is to try to come up with criteria for curb access for residential buildings that requested of us. And we've had a few requests over the last couple of years. And sometimes we take it to the full board and they say, we need criteria. And then in June, we came up with some criteria, Howard and I did. And we heard, oh no, we should do it on a case-by-case basis. So, but then when we tried it on a case-by-case basis at the I guess January meeting, there was it seemed like there was a critical mass of board members who actually wanted to see criteria. So Sophia and I thought that it would be good to try to come up with some criteria that would pass the full board for when circumstances under which we would approve loading zone requests. And we have some proposed wording. We figured it would be more efficient to start out with a draft of something so that we could work from. And as you can see from the beginning, it says something like, I can't, my eyes aren't good enough to see it, but it
At
says we
least-
will look favorably on this. I think one problem with what we had in June was that it took the decision-making out of the hands of the community board. It basically said 50 units or more, it would be kind of an automatic approval. So this just gives the criteria that we would kind of expect and would look favorably on, which I think certainly does not take the decision out of the board's hands. So I'll give you, maybe take a few minutes to read it. huh?
Yeah, I have my hand up.
Yes,
So this was not circulated before.
no,
Okay.
sorry, we just finalized
Okay.
it an hour ago.
Okay, so so this is gonna be an open discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Not.
Mhm.
oh no, this is not like take it or leave it, or,
No, I know, but like, is the goal to get to a resolution tonight?
it would be nice.
Okay, And then the second thing, just to go backwards, the item about the loading zone was for Help USA. For those of you guys who don't know, the organization, who I'm sure Isaac, you know a fair amount about, but they had come to me and they're a little disorganized because they've never gone through this process before, but we felt that as a community board, it was a good thing to have them, to welcome them to come and make their case to us. And so they unfortunately weren't able to do it, but hopefully you can come next month. So yeah, so okay, so this, you want us to take a few minutes? of-
Yeah, maybe take a
Okay.
couple of minutes to read it, digest it.
I think you had your hand up first, yeah.
So, once we approve criteria, whether it's what we're looking at or slight variations of that, applicants would still need to be reviewed each time they apply, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
These are sort of like, it's sort of like the secondary street naming, like where we have guidelines and we still vote and the board still has to approve. Okay,
To put this up now at the beginning of the meeting and to tell us that you just finalized the narrow and then you want to vote, I think it's highly
We
improper
don't
and
necessarily have. to vote.
undesirable.
we don't have to vote.
Yeah, it's
If-
just for
if it becomes-
discussion.
If you all feel it's unworkable, let's just discuss it
Mhm.
and, but let's talk about this.
Carrie raised his hand. Carrie, go ahead.
So thank you for taking the time to put this together. I feel like I have a slightly different view of what happened when we proposed just a 50 unit cutoff to the full board. I felt like the feedback that we got was that it was going to be a little too arbitrary, that all of a sudden all of these different loading spaces might start appearing. And I feel like we're still challenged by the question of how are we going to make it so that it isn't just loading zones everywhere, because so many different spaces would otherwise qualify for it. At least with a street co-naming, it only happens once typically. It isn't that you're going to have competing applications and where for curb space, if there's a loading zone close to Columbus, you may not get one close to Amsterdam, and there may be compelling needs for both of them. So I wanted to suggest an approach that maybe tried to thread the needle a little bit, something along the lines of a resolution that says, we support the reimagining of curb space throughout the district, and we support applications to reimagine the curb, provided that DOT's Manhattan Borough Engineering Office conducts an investigation, doesn't foresee any issues, and that in doing that investigation, we encourage the DOT to holistically assess the needs of the block, including, for example, these types of factors. So that way we're giving a green light, because in looking at what DOT did with the application on 106th Street, they basically said, looks okay, tell us what the community board thinks. And I feel like it would be very helpful for us just to say, we have no problem with this, but could you take a look at the whole street and see, is this the best place for it, and rely on their expertise?
Yeah, well, the problem is that DOT, I think Jay asked when we discussed this the last time, what DOT's criteria were for this, and we asked them. And if we scroll down below this is Colleen's answer to us. Basically, they defer to us. They have minimal criteria. One is you can't have a city bike dock on the same block. It can't be near a bus stop, too close to a bus stop or something else.
City bike.
City bikes and obviously a hydrant. But otherwise, they're not going to approve it unless we do. This is one of apparently the rare cases where a community board is not advisory. We're dispositive. So I don't know whether that changes what you're going to propose, but we really, we're the decider, to quote George Bush.
And could you share kind of about what the value proposition of it, or what the value proposition is of a loading zone versus a no standing zone?
Um, loading zone means you can stop like a truck, for, there may be a time limit, maybe it's an hour. Obviously unload it. No standing basically means that, you can, you can sort of go in and out, like you can drop somebody off. But, that's it. They really mean it, so. And then there's no parking, which I'm not clear. Does anybody know the distinction between no parking and no standing?
Yes,
I think Colleen is on.
Oh, Colleen?
I think I saw her. Did I?
Yeah,
no
she's there.
standing means you, literally, you can't pull into that space, even if you're in the car. Right. Period.
Hey,
Mhm.
so,
You
hi,
can't-
hi, everyone, it's Colleen from DOT.
Hey, Colleen.
So with a no stopping, no standing, no parking, waiting is not allowed, right? So you can't do that. You can't wait. Waiting is not allowed in a no stopping, no standing, or no parking. Can I stop to load and unload a package or merchandise at curbside? In a no stopping, no, you can't. In a no standing, no, you can't. In a no parking, yes, you can. Can I stop to drop off or pick up a passenger? In a no stopping, no, you can't. In a no standing, yes, you can. And in a no parking, yes, you can.
Hmm,
Okay,
That's helpful.
Carrie, did what I said, was that helpful?
It was. It's an impressive power that we have in this space.
Yes, and we will exercise it. Yeah, sure.
I've seen in these type of things that to set up criteria, there's always the exceptions. Okay, depending on the nature of the population living there, for instance, it can go either way. If there is a need for people moving in and moving out, you have to let people have some space on, there, that's understandable. But I don't think you can take a number of units and say that is, that or above is good. It depends on so many factors. I think we should consider them each one separately. Okay? With over time, some principles or, rise up out of it. Things we've said before that made sense are brought up again. And I think to make criteria, we're gonna start fighting over the criteria, or we're going to be making exceptions to the criteria. And I don't think it's productive, okay? Not on the
Alex,
committee, but that's my opinion.
Riffing a little bit on what Shelley said. I also similarly, maybe criteria is maybe what we're trying to define is guidelines, right? Shelley, does that work more? In that it's a little confusing, right? What does the community board think should or should not be prioritized in creating a no parking or whatever you want to say, a parking spot? And so maybe to your point, we have guidelines. For instance, if in buildings that are specifically, for senior living, our guideline is to, recommend zones like that. Or for buildings that have this feature, we think that it should be approved. Does that help, Shelley, or is that not help?
I think that helps because there are certain situations where historically we have said, of course, we should have a no, what you call it, the loading zone. It's necessary for health facilities, for senior facilities and others. And so I think the guidelines make sense. Criteria already is something you can argue day and night over. And I don't think it would get passed at the board.
Yeah, I could go with guidelines,
Thank you.
which is the word we use in secondary street names.
I think what we're trying to avoid here is that we have applicants come, we pass it, we have the discussion, but then when we go to full board, we always have the debate about parking. And then it's an hour-long discussion. And so I think that we're just trying to kind of guide the conversation and save people time and say, this came through these guidelines, we can call it that now, so that people are more assured that it went through some type of filter that we all can agree on. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it is important that we contextualize this. I think one of the reasons I opposed to the last criteria on, if it was kind of a rubber stamp and it became a ministerial act that would never actually get to our committee or board. And if someone had 50 or more units, boom, they get it. And I don't think that was appropriate. The way this is written, there's it's chock full of really good stuff in there. But I think the context here is that it's sort of an affirmative thing, if that is what we all collectively want to say, that we shall favorably consider. What I am more in favor of is saying that this is kind of minimum guidelines, or these are things that the committee or the board will take into consideration and may be favorable. But also, I don't want to take us out of the business of being able to approve or disapprove something for exceptional circumstances or unique circumstances. If we have the power, I don't want us to write ourselves out of having the power. So, and obviously, I mean, there could be examples also in here where we might not consider it. I don't want to be too heavily negative either. But, if there happens to be another loading zone within a certain amount of feet, that would be duplicative on the block and we probably wouldn't approve it. So anyway, my point is that I think it should be more objective and a little less of an affirmative thing because it still seems a little too automatic for me.
So along those lines, could we say something like,
Right.
CB7
Mhm.
recommends that applicants consider the following :
Mhm.
and then list all these, so it gives us enough wiggle room to say, like, we're not necessarily gonna approve this. But
Mhm.
these are things that we are going to consider as we make a decision.
Each application will be considered on a case-by-case basis.
Yes, something like that, but to say,
It's
to
just
make it,
disclaimer.
CB7 recommends that applicants do this, so that the applicant gets this information. They know what the checklist is, they know what they have to come prepared for when they come to a meeting, and they know that if these things are not met, then more likely than not, there's a good chance it's not gonna get approved, but it also, if they do meet the majority of these things, that we would look upon it favorably, depending, again, on, it is case by case, and I agree with Alex and Shelley and everyone else who said
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, I was actually envisioning a
The word recommendation.
Google Doc that would just be informational, like number of units, demonstrated need, that sort of stuff. Similar to what we have for secondary street naming. Somebody have their hand up?
Yeah, well, except for the first criteria, guideline, whatever, of 50 residential units in the building, which we've already rejected. And the arguments that you referenced, Sophia, about parking and arguing, and the argument that if we give it to one, why aren't we giving it to? I mean, that's going to exist other than an arbitrary cap or base on the number of units.
Yeah, do you want to
As-
explain the 50
well-
or,
Well, we've been over this 50. But based on all of the other guidelines or criteria, there's not a building on the Upper West Side that doesn't have some of those factors, but some of them will never have. There are no commercial uses on West End. There are no commercial uses on Riverside Drive. There are no commercial uses on Central Park West. So then the question is, well, how many of these criteria should a building have? Does a building have to have? And if they have one that we consider compelling, but no others, does that disqualify them. My circular reason gets me back to, we should stay where we are. Evaluate each application for what it is, for its particular factors, its peculiar factors, the necessities, and leave it the way it is. I think this is an exercise in futility, honestly.
Yeah, but if we do that, we just end up with a slippery slope argument at full board. I mean, it might pass this committee. The last one passed us like 10-1. But then we go to full board and they say, oh, it's a slippery slope. Where, everybody's, is gonna be a land rush for these things.
And I think, Ken, with respect, you'll end up with the same debate and the same arguments, because I'll say it once more, taking this list of criteria that you put up here, there's not a building on the Upper West Side that doesn't meet some of those criteria.
Well,
So then the question is, well, that my building or this building 2 doors down has these 3 criteria, and which ones are more important? And, I just think that this is a peculiar animal, and we need to look at it case by case.
well, I just say the 50 units narrows it down considerably. There are 2,600, let me finish.
Go ahead.
There are 2,600 residential buildings on the Upper West Side. Fewer than 500 have 50 or more units. And many, I can assure you that many of those buildings either already have a loading zone in front or curb access, or they want to preserve their parking for their residents. And I do not anticipate a land rush at all. But it narrows it down, to a small minority. less
My
than a fifth.
question then becomes, is that fair?
Well, what's fair?
If there's a building 2 doors down that has 46 units,
Well, we do say, under extraordinary circumstances, we have that out, that we would consider a different number.
and you're gonna try to define extraordinary circumstances.
Will be case by case, like we just discussed.
Exactly.
Yeah, case by
Yeah,
case.
So
yeah.
we should do it case by case.
Yeah, but these are just
This
guidelines
is a
for
hybrid.
our discussion on what's favorable, and I think it would be great to come together to decide what is favorable, and when we go to full board, that'll also be helpful for that discussion, so we don't have that, like, when we talk about parking, they say it activates the reptilian cortex in your brain, which is the same as fight or flight mode in your brain, so it's just like, I'm trying to avoid that every time at full board.
As a
And
matter
that's
of fairness, do
structure.
you agree that we should eliminate the 50?
I wanted, yeah, like I was wondering why we had 50 in there. And so I think we can still put more thought into the 50. And again, this is just a discussion we're having. This isn't final, so any feedback you have on it.
Well,
is
do we
really
want a
helpful.
different number
Alex has his hand up.
I don't
I'm sorry,
think
yeah.
Yeah.
So
or?
one, I think Jay, Jay makes some good points, and I don't want to predict the future, but I feel Jay potentially is correctly predicting the future. But about people's reactions at full board. But what is an example is, and Colleen could tell us more about this. If you're a hotel, I believe if you're above 100 rooms, you automatically get a loading zone, or if DOT can decide to give you a loading zone. But if you're lower than 100 rooms, then you have to go to the community board, and same thing as the current process. So like there is precedent for saying, obviously, if you have this many rooms or apartments, you should get a loading zone. And if not, come to your community board, have some process. So that would suggest that maybe a room or apartment number does make sense.
I think we had hands. Jamie.
Well,
yes,
you answered my
yeah,
question,
yeah.
like you made it very clear that, it is going to still, even if we voted to approve this, it would still be a case by case thing, which
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
this is more to show both the board and the community that, we're just not approving these things willy-nilly. We have kind of a recipe for, what would get approved.
And
And it's, it's ultimately gonna be subjective, but but we try to make it as objective as possible.
And you could actually end up weeding some people out.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
It's just someone who lives in a fifth floor walk up and it's like, maybe I can get one. It's like,
Right.
Yeah.
no.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Hang on, Jay,
Jamie.
let's, let.
I think Jamie's
Jamie.
next.
I think I'm next unless there was someone online ahead of me. Maybe that was Alan.
You go first.
So I am in favor of some, I'm not suggesting we need to vote on this tonight, but I'm looking at it from the point of view of the community.
Mhm, yeah.
And like the secondary street names, I think it is beneficial for those who visit our site or come to our meetings to have some sense of what our requirements are.
Mhm.
As long as they're flexible and reasonably so. It's nice to have, I prefer guidelines, but it's nice to have some guidelines if you're going to ask for a loading zone or a secondary street naming to know what you'll be required to present. So I would be in favor of something other than just show up and tell us what you got.
Totally.
Yeah.
So generally, I'm looking at it from the point of view of the members of the community who come before us, rather than our own
Mhm.
frustrations and limitations.
That, and I actually wanted to say that too, that like, I think it is a service to the community because I can see how our last applicant must have been frustrated coming here, presenting and then going to full board and the discussion going sideways. So that's exactly what we want to avoid too, is like more respect for the people that come here and apply. Yeah.
Isaac.
Go ahead.
So I'm not a member of the committee, I'm from HHS, but certainly recognize the importance of these loading zones or whether they're no parking or no standing. No parking does sound a lot more flexible in
Mhm.
many ways. So I
Yeah.
would challenge the committee to think about if that may be a better thing to call for than loading zone. The other thing I would recommend is perhaps making the criteria, judging this criteria based on blocks, not necessarily the size of each building or how many people live in them. Because one of the concerns that I've heard here tonight and at the meeting we had in December is that that folks are concerned that there are going to be loading zones that are set up in adjacent buildings, and then suddenly there's going to be no parking left. But one doesn't necessarily need a loading zone that's 10 feet away from one's building. If there already, is one within the vicinity. So I think perhaps re-examining the scope of this could be a good exercise. And I do think that this is not futile because it does eat up a lot of energy during the full board meetings. So it is good to converse about it here.
Yeah, just sorry, in response to that, I think that we did try to think of it by the block, because I agree it is a bit complex. So like especially we looked at land use and thinking about, we would be giving this to residential buildings, but then also certain land uses around that would make it more favorable. So for example, commercial or mixed use, which would strengthen the case because, there's high turnover in parking there, there's frequent loading activity, there's a lot of double parking, so it's very hectic. And so, vulnerable populations like children or elderly, like the last applicant was saying, they don't want to be unloading passengers in that area. So, and then, we have the city bike docking station, hydrants, bus stop. So yeah, just wanted, do you think that is kind of what you're talking about, block by block, or?
I think so. I mean,
Okay.
I'm also just thinking, the optimal use of allocating these
Mhm.
designated spaces. Like maybe it makes most sense to just place one in the middle of every block. And some folks, their building, the entrance will just inherently be at the middle of the block. Other people may have to walk over a couple dozen feet.
Mhm.
But it'll still be a better setup than what currently exists.
You're saying it shouldn't go application by application, but like you should give each block. Yeah,
Perhaps.
got it. Okay, that's a ambitious
And I'm
idea.
not
I love it.
anti-parking
Yeah.
by any
Okay,
means.
yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we should have language somewhere in here that says, each site will be inspected before a final decision is rendered.
Yeah, Ken actually had that in there.
good
and-
idea.
Yeah, so we'll add that
And I
back
was
in.
told to take it out by somebody who would be unnamed.
And I've spoken about, I'm, to further contextualize this, I'm wondering if this should be more of a friendly kind of FAQ on our website that
Mhm.
says, you know, when applying for something, you might want to, you know, provide the following information.
That's what I-
That these are the things that are going to be considered, right, to be considered, and that basically, you know, that, again, there should be some disclaimers for us. So the following criteria, but not limited to, will be considered. And you should be prepared to bring this information to the meeting. So it's more of a warm and friendly like suggestion, and here it is. It's not rules, you know, hard line criteria. This is what you should be thinking about when you come to the meeting.
Mhm,
That's all I wanted to say.
mhm.
I just asked, like, I'm wondering though, if it's like an FAQ, I wonder if that's formal enough for when we do bring an approval to full board. Do you think that?
Well, maybe an FAQ is too soft, but again,
Mhm.
it's just more like, here are the things that the committee, you know, usually considers. These
Mhm.
are guidelines.
Mhm.
We, you know, we reserve the right to approve, you know, based on unique circumstances.
Yeah.
And, you know, please have, you know, it would be helpful if you had this information with you,
Mhm.
you know, for yourself and for the committee and board.
Got it.
You know,
Yeah.
that's all.
Carrie's had his hand raised for some time.
Thanks, Sophia. Two additional thoughts that came to mind from the conversation. First, with regard to the 50 unit limit, maybe we think about it in terms of zoning instead. So we, instead of just a strict cutoff, we refer to high density zones, R8 or equivalent plus, something like that, which we'd then be able to sort of key it to the zoning map. So that was one thought. And I did want to echo the suggestion that maybe we take a slightly broader scope, and instead of thinking about this just in terms of building by building, that we talk about it in terms of the block. So an applicant can come forward and maybe they have the requirements, but in the co-naming guidelines, we say a resolution only stands for a limited proposition. And we could do a similar thing, and I'd be curious if this would work for Colleen and DOT. Maybe we could simply say our resolution stands for the proposition that a loading zone is appropriate on the block as a whole. And I think that would be helpful, because thinking about this from the perspective of a rational actor, it should set up a land rush. It should encourage people to apply for this. And one of the dynamics that was playing out at the last full board meeting was it wasn't just, it was the building who had a champion, but then the neighbors who were opposing it, partly because they wanted one. And instead of encouraging that dynamic, it should be somebody's raised their hand and everybody on the block should either then be able to weigh in pro or con. And if we can then, if DOT can then figure out where on the block is the best place with our endorsement of it somewhere, that might be a better way of threading that needle.
Yeah, the only problem I foresee with that is a lot of people want access to their building. Particularly people who are disabled, the elderly, people with kids, people just dropping packages off. They don't want to have to walk, 200 feet to the building entrance. So that's a
That's
consideration.
everyone. I mean, especially on the blocks with dense buildings, it is going to be very difficult to imagine the situation where we are going to be able to say it should be in front of this building instead of that building. And I think that's a circumstance where we really do have the potential to generate conflict and unnecessary discussion, instead of simply saying this is a block where these conditions exist as a whole and there should be a loading zone. And maybe it's, it's better than having to walk from the avenues. So it may not be the perfect, but it's still something.
I don't know. I feel like that's kind of, I think loading zones on a block are kind of a different issue. I mean, I personally think that every crosstown block should have 4 or 5 loading zones. I realize that's kind of an outlier idea. But I think that's kind of a different beast from a specific building requesting something for their residents to come and go more easily and not have to, squirm between parked cars to get to the door. Jay?
Yeah, just two observations. First, following up on what Jamie said about the necessity for informing the public as to what the guidelines are. If you keep the 50 unit criteria, the message that you're sending in addition to everything else is don't bother to come here unless your building has 50 units. As to Sophia's observation about a format for informing the public, but whether it's Q&A or what it is, doesn't matter. What we present, you said might affect presenting to the board. What we present to the board is a resolution. And in the resolution, it states the circumstances and the facts that we consider in reaching a conclusion. So the format that you post, if it comes to that, is really meaningless when it comes to communicating with the board.
I think last time, a couple people were surprised that we didn't have criteria for this, and they said that that's why they didn't vote for
But
it.
that's a question of
So-
what the committee considered.
Yeah, but we don't have a uniform list of things that we consider. That's kind of what we're trying to get at here.
Well, then that comes back to my initial observation, that with something like this, you've basically got every possible criteria there is, and you can have some building that has 3 of them, some building that has 8 of them, some building that may deserve it that really doesn't have any of them. So I think it's circular reasoning that takes you back to a case-by-case basis.
This might be a crazy idea, but this was something I thought of a while back, was that we have a point system. And you get a certain number of points for the units in the building. You get a certain number of points for block association approval, get a certain number of points for not being near a fire hydrant. And then, I mean, it's not like we have a threshold of points where we don't automatically approve, but it would at least give us something quantitative.
I mean, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Again, just going back to if we soften the language and say, these are examples of, and not limited to, the kinds of things that the committee shall consider. It's, I think it's informative, and we can have it chock full of some things. And again, it doesn't take away our authority to approve or disapprove based upon our own discretion, but you might want to know, here are the things that, examples of things. We're not making it a finite set of criteria. There may be other things that are not listed on that. I don't want to paint
Well, we could-
ourselves into
we
a
could
corner.
Use the word include. The guidelines that we,
Well,
Look for it.
these are examples of the type of things that
Mhm.
are typically thought of or reviewed by the committee, and, and not limited to the
Mhm.
following.
That we look favorably upon.
Right.
I mean, well, you could say favorably, you could just say, these are the things that we're taking into account. It's almost implied. I mean, whether it's favorably or,
Yeah,
it's sort of,
okay.
I-
Yeah,
Personally, I
go
like how this is shaping up. One thing that we might want to add to the list of things that we consider, although I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not, is like a list of signatures, a la street naming. Like, what if the applicant came forward and said, and here's a list of 200 signatures of people in my building who want a no parking zone. I mean, again, it's an input. It's not required for everyone, but again, if we're listing the inputs to the process, and this could be an input. Personally, if you gave me a list of 200 people, I'd be like, damn, okay, like that's that seems like a lot of people want this.
as long as they're not from
Everybody in the
Queens or
building is gonna
Bronx.
sign it.
I mean, it has to be proportionate to the
So what's
size of the building.
point?
Okay, I think we'll move to the public, and this has been all super helpful feedback. I've been on my phone taking notes, so
Mhm.
I'll apply that and then we'll apply the feedback and then we'll circulate it so you can actually have time to think about it, and then we can just move the discussion along. So, okay, I
Rich.
see a hand back there.
Yeah, so, last month, one of the topics was prioritization for the committee. And, I don't think that loading zones were the top priority topic. And if you think about the committee, it meets 10 times 2 hours of time, so maybe 20 hours a year. Based on the past few meetings, it could seem like easily you could spend 10 hours a year just on, loading zones. And a concern about doing it on a total case-by-case basis is that it invites a lot of time, both for the committee as well as full board and the applicant and Colleen. And if you think about the brainpower in this room that's going towards individual selection of loading zones, it's a lot of time and, a lot of smart people focused on one issue. I don't know that it matters the semantics of whether you call it guidelines, considerations, FAQ, criteria. I do think that, considering efficiency is a key thought of just how can the board handle these requests on a really efficient basis, to be able to focus on other things as well as this issue. One thought is you might consider bundling them and only doing one meeting a year, that's all about loading zones. That way you can handle and consider like the different requests, see how, the different ones match up. So it's not like, well, 4 months ago, we had this consideration. I also do think it's a good idea to send a message to the public of, here are the things we're considering. Whether it's Ken's point system or whatever else it might be. The other thought I have is, I'm hearing people say like, we shouldn't do this because it's too popular, too many people would want it. And as a board representing the community, I question if that's representing the community, if you have something that's too popular and you're saying we shouldn't do this because too many people want it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Great, I think.
I have a
Yeah.
question about number 4.
Mhm.
My building has a fire hydrant right in front of the entrance, which is a de facto loading zone.
Mhm.
And if it wasn't there, I wouldn't be able to get my bike out into the street. I'd have to squirm through cars and snow. I'd never get it out. I'd have to
Lucky you.
ride on the sidewalk for a while. So one parking space could be sacrificed and make it a full loading zone, but it's a hydrant, so it doesn't qualify.
Hmm.
That's
You
it.
can buy fake hydrants and put it.
What do you say?
You can buy fake hydrants
Yeah.
for your building.
Trapped a lot of dogs.
So,
Great. Anyone
anybody
else?
else in the community? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have a comment. I do think loading zones, everybody wants one, particularly dense buildings with a lot of density. I'd love to see us be proactive and offer loading zones where DOT takes a look at an area and we know there's a building with a lot of units, or we know it's when you see a lot of double parking, I would love to see us not make it conditional, but go for the tabula rasa. Let's look at our streets. It's different on the avenues than it is on the cross streets. It's very different. The roads are narrower. When you're double parked on an avenue, it's not causing the kinds of issues and dangerous conditions. So we really need to take the professionals, let DOT take a look and offer a loading zone per block as a mandatory requirement and a resolution that says, we want loading zones. We need a place for people to get picked up and dropped off, packages to be delivered. And this is a need throughout the Upper West Side, not just the people who ask for it.
Right.
True.
I hear a motion for that.
Okay, great.
Jay,
We can move on.
I could go on for a half hour on that.
Yeah, okay.
But I'll
Please
spare,
don't.
I'll spare all.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Jane,
I would just, I don't wanna say second, I would just echo, the notion of bundling. It works well with the co-namings. We were becoming flooded with co-namings before, and now that we've bundled, I think it's more efficient. So it's just something to consider. It wouldn't be a make or break issue for me in voting for something like this, but it might be worth considering including in any resolution.
and how somebody suggested site visits. How do we feel about that? I mean,
You
are
don't know
we
what you're
willing
looking,
to go out
you don't
to?
know what you're looking at, talking about, because you haven't seen it. And you're imagining it because you were there once.
Well, we have Google Street View.
Yeah, it doesn't do it.
It's not
It
the same.
doesn't do it. You
Nothing
see
like a
what's
real
around the
visit.
corner, you see what's on the side.
Mhm.
You know,
Preservation does site visits now for all of their
Yeah.
ones, so I think it's a nice touch. The person shows up and says, you know, one of us went there, you know, Shelley went there. Shelley, what did you see? And then Shelley says, you know, XYZ.
ACI, we used to do site visits with every application, particularly with outdoor dining. We sort of stopped that practice, but we did it, and we assigned the committee members, usually convenient to maybe where they live to make it easier, but we.
Back in the day when you had to take photographs before you had,
Right. Yeah, but we did visit every site that we reviewed.
If you bundled the applications and had, say, 5 of them, you'd have to supply sleeping bags for the entire committee.
We can arrange that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a great segue because we're gonna talk about discretionary spending.
Oh, yeah. Sleeping
Yeah,
bags,
yeah,
there you go.
Okay, so, I don't know if you remember, but we did talk about that we had money that we could spend. And so let me just make sure I'm pulling up the right
I'm just
thing.
trying to compete with HHS.
maybe as Sophia is looking for that,
Mhm.
could you give us just, like a rewind and update on like where this, is that what this is? Oh, no, just, where this money is coming from, what and how, and
Mhm.
what we have to put it to use for, when and by. At what time.
Yeah, you were at the steering committee do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Because I think there are a lot of questions about money that's coming into the board and like where,
Mhm.
how, all that kind of stuff, that would help.
Yeah, this
All
is
I-
not specific, excuse me,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Alex.
not specific to transportation.
Right,
You can consider us as having $10,000. You can consider it that we should spend it before May 1st. We've asked every committee to pass resolutions stating what uses of funding they find have merit. And then I am devising a system with which we will ask for a ranking of items of merit. So that's the details.
So, yeah, thank you. And then on that, what I did is that I basically created 3 concerns that, we hear a lot about, but also concerns that we could also probably do something about. So one is that we have a lot of constituents coming and saying that they're concerned about the speed of e-bikes. But so trying to find solutions that would help with that concern in our community, but in a way that also would still make people riding micromobility, we want to encourage micromobility in our district. So something that doesn't impede that. And so these are just like physical things that we could spend our money on. And again, this is a discussion, so will you please let me know your feedback? So the first one was rumble strips or other safety treatments, and that can be installed before crosswalks or intersections, especially at high conflict locations. And so they also create these sensory clues to slow down before they hit those intersections. So just based on my Google searching, the Federal Highway Administration said that, it would cost roughly $50 to $600 to install a few of them at these high conflict intersections. And then another way to address that feedback that we get from the community and concerns is a bike speed feedback sign. So, the new speed limit is 15 miles per hour. And so having a sign that says the limit and then the feedback, how fast you're actually going. And just a rough estimate that I found online is $2,000 to $5,000. And then the other one is that people are really concerned that bikers don't respect traffic rules. And so maybe we need clear signals and expectations for cyclists to reduce confusion. So bike specific traffic signals or traffic signage. I'm not, like, these are just ideas, physical ideas that came to my head, and through doing some research. But I'm not married to any of these. We also don't have to spend any money. I just thought that it would be a really nice opportunity to show the community that we're listening to you. We know you're concerned about this, so this could be a way of addressing that. You know, of course, traffic fatalities and injuries are always an issue. And so, you know, I think you mentioned at one point that we could get a speed camera to
Speed gun.
speed gun, yeah, to understand like speed trends in our neighborhood. So these are just some ideas. Let me know your feedback if you have any better ideas. Yeah.
I have a
mhm,
question.
Yeah.
If we wanted to pay for some rumble strips,
mhm,
notoriously bad intersections like 96 and West End, where
mhm.
there's all sorts of other things happening, we will still need DOT's permission. They would be the ones to install it, I assume.
Yeah, yeah. Colleen, if you're
Yeah,
still,
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I mean, we wouldn't allow anyone to install anything on our roadway or on our infrastructure. That's, yeah, that's correct, Andrew. But I think, and Sophia, I did get your email about, you know, having DOT take a look at this to see if the funds can be assigned to us to make some of the improvements that you highlighted. And what I know is that city agencies do not generally take discretionary funding from a community board, because this is allocated from a city council. So I need to check with our capital division to see if this is something that we can actually, you know, take and allocate to, you know, some of the things that you just mentioned there.
Would it be similar to 103rd Street, where I believe a private organization donated the funds for the granite blocks and et cetera, which DOT installed? At least that's what I had heard from the Manhattan
So-
Borough president, that they have examples where private organizations, bids, et cetera, give funds and DOT installs the stuff.
No, no, it doesn't work like that. So those granite blocks, they belong to the city. We do not take funding from private organizations for that. What we do, we allocate the materials, and the maintenance partner, or the stakeholder, they're the ones who assist with maintaining the space for us, whether it's cleaning, snow removal, and so forth and so forth. But I'd have to confirm with my colleagues if this is something that we can take. And I can get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I just had a
Mhm.
question about rumble strips. I remember we had a discussion about that when there were some people concerned, particularly in the warm weather, when outdoor dining and roadway dining, there was, you know, people were crossing over into the restaurant. And I heard at the time that we were not allowed, or that they were advised against doing that. And this, I guess, a question for Colleen, are there rumble strips installed on any bike lanes throughout the city? Or is this a new idea from us?
No, we do have rumble strips that are installed in bike lanes, like for example, in front of a busy hotel where there is a hotel loading zone. That's one example that I can cite. We have them installed as you're coming off of a bridge. We do have rumble strips. So this is nothing new.
Okay, thanks. I know there were challenges with cleaning the street or in the snow, and obviously we're talking about bike lanes and not the roadway, but I know there were challenges with it, and also obviously safety, making sure that the bike is not gonna skid out or flip or it.
Mhm,
I have another suggestion.
amazing.
We've asked for this many, many years,
Mhm,
but at the exits of the Henry Hudson Parkway at 96, 97, 79, that is the first place that some automobiles or other vehicles are setting their wheels in the city of New York on the streets. We need to have the speed limit signs posted at those exits.
mhm, okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it sounds like that would either be a state or a city,
City.
probably
Well, it's coming off of 9A, sorry to jump
Yeah,
in,
that would be a-
9A is New York State, but
Right.
once it's into the city, I assume it's
It's the
DOT.
city, yeah, once you're on city streets, it's DOT.
so
Yeah, because you're coming off, what's the speed limit on the West Side Highway? I'm saying, is it
55, I'm sure.
55, right? And, right. Yeah,
Unlimited.
it is typical on
I don't
other
think-
highways
I don't think
throughout
it's as nice.
the country in New York
Auto
State.
And I go.
When you're going on a ramp, slow down, you're leaving the speed zone
Mhm,
and
Yes.
flashing, slowing down lights. I think that is very important.
Right.
Yeah.
mhm. Great, we can add that. Okay, so I guess the next step though is to wait for Colleen to see if DOT can accept this money, right?
So Colleen, we gotta spend it by May, so.
I'm working on it, Ken. I'm sending an email right now.
Thank you, okay,
You're welcome.
okay, great, thank you.
So
great.
are we in new business?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I had a new
so-
business. Oh, I added an agenda item to new business that Elizabeth and I had talked about. I don't know, Elizabeth, do you want to pitch this?
Sure, I can, do you want to start with that, or do you want to go in the order it's on the agenda?
Why don't you tell us what it is so we can,
It's the item on the communications. The sending of articles within a committee.
oh.
Slack
okay,
channel, WhatsApp group, yeah,
Yeah,
something.
so, many of you on this committee, sorry for the HHS folks, but maybe you have this on your committee as well. We have had a lot of very robust conversations over email, on policy issues related to transportation, news articles that get circulated, that generate a lot of back and forth among committee members, expressing opinions, things that oftentimes, just for the sake of convenience, we do it over email, but if we had our druthers and could do it in person, we would, or over a beer or a coffee or something, we could do that too. But we've been using technology to do it. Email, as we all know, is now becoming something that is just like our email boxes are full all the time. One of the things that I had been thinking about, and it's nothing new, but just thinking of an alternative channel for us to have, basically leaving email for consequential administrative CB7 transportation committee information. So for instance, what happened tonight with the cancellation of the speaker, that would go out over email to people. So they would be checking their email and seeing, a time change, an agenda, basic communications. Anything else, such as opinions, articles, mind share, interesting articles that people read in the papers that we think would warrant some back and forth and communications, could go through another channel. So I personally think it would help unclog a lot of people's inboxes. I know, just speaking personally, that transportation emails, when I get them, I sometimes don't know where in the thread, if there's a back and forth between members, who had the last comment, and then if I want to chime in, I don't want to spend my time searching through thousands of emails to find the CB7 email about this. So I'm open to what people use. I use everything from, Slack to a WhatsApp group to I'm sure people around this table probably have other channels that they use. But just wanted to see if that was something that might be of interest. I personally also think it could be something, if other committees are going through this, that it may be something we want to stick to one, whether it's WhatsApp or Teams or whatever, and use it across the committees for this kind of communication. I just think email is really hard for people to follow with this type of, again, it's conversational, opinion related dialogue when there's interesting articles about relevant stuff going on, whether it's something that the mayor or the governor is doing, or a new piece of legislation, and somebody, whether it's about a bike lane or about what's happening in a different part of the world related to transportation, stuff that's sort of interesting and stuff that we want to talk about, not stuff that's necessarily relevant to the administrative aspect of holding these monthly meetings.
HHS hasn't had this problem, but other committees I've been on, discussions happen on emails, and those who participate think they're getting some progress on things over time by more input, 3 people, 4 people. the discussion belongs here,
Correct.
not there. I think
Yes.
that has to be something that's clear, but to provide articles and interesting things, that's great, but maybe it should be sent to everybody.
Well, I think the idea is that it would be sent to everybody,
Yeah.
but would not be sent over
Over there, right?
email. It would
Be
not come from
separate.
Sophia and Ken and go out to people and then
Absolutely.
I respond and then Jay responds to me and
Yeah.
somebody else responds and it turns into this whole thing. And then somebody else from the committee just wants to find out what time the damn meeting starts.
Exactly.
And it goes through all the.
I think the separate, sounds
So that's
great.
what I'm getting at. And there are plenty of smarter people, I'm sure Alex and some of the other folks included who might have suggestions. I found that working with WhatsApp has worked. Those messages are also encrypted. I don't know the open meetings law piece of this. It's come up when we've dealt with email. So I think anything that we try to do, we need to make sure that it's, and this is a borough president's question, but I think they would be open to us doing it. I also very much believe we should stick to one mode if we do this across CB7 and not have it be each committee has a different way of doing it.
Well, you
Yeah,
just
a
mentioned.
bunch of,
Oh,
or I
sorry,
was gonna say, a bunch of different committees and people have brought this to my attention. Like, why can't we have a text chain, or why can't we have whatever? So a lot of people have brought it up. I like the idea of trying it out with one or two committees. I think transportation is a great example where a lot of you guys have said, "Oh, did you see what Flynn said about this? Did you see what happened here?" So it's potentially a great example of this. The Manhattan Borough President's Office said one community board actually uses Slack. They said you can use it ever you want as long as it's foilable. So you need to be able to send an email to the office or to someone and
Yes.
say, give me all the messages that were sent over this month. So yeah, for WhatsApp or Slack or whatever, we could easily make it foilable. But yeah, I think it's a great idea by Elizabeth. I'm interested to see what people think.
I also just wanted to add, I don't know if Nandita is gonna be involved in this at all, but just having like our tech person, like, I personally would like to know the pros and cons of like the benefits of using Slack versus WhatsApp versus Teams versus, you know, in terms of for what we're trying to do. I have an idea, but I don't know if she's gonna be able to do any research to that effect, or if we could have her maybe help us with that.
Doug?
Well, this has been discussed already. I love the idea of a, you know, a convenience. It's to be able to see interesting articles and things that are informational. But I am concerned about the spirit of violating the open meetings law. I'm not, because, you know, the discussions should include the public. So if we're having robust discussions, and the public's not privy to it, I think it defeats the purpose of what is required and what we're supposed to be doing. So speaking of criteria, there should be criteria about what you share on a single channel Slack. And you cannot be discussing resolutions or information that the public needs to weigh in on. I just think it's a slippery slope. That's all.
Rich?
So I'm obviously a huge fan of transparency, and I remember 12 years ago working with Elizabeth, we actually set CB7 up to be the first community board in the city to live stream meetings, which got a lot of notice. I love the idea.
And a lot of
And-
pushback.
What's that?
It got a lot of pushback.
Yeah, it got a lot of pushback, but it's.
Well, here we are.
I know.
So,
And now it's a standard.
yeah, and I love this idea, and, you know, when we talk about transparency, yeah, I don't think CB7 is setting the world on fire with reaching the entire community. And I think this could be not an impediment, but a huge opportunity. I just looked up, Slack does allow read-only channels. So you could have channels set up that are open to members of the public. And whereas email would have to be foiled, here this could just be by default transparent and available to the public. You could have channels where the public could contribute, you could have channels where the public can view what members are saying, but not like fill up the channel with members talking so that you'd be able to conduct discussions. But, you know, very easily, this could be a forum where you get more public participation than the four of us outsiders who are here right now. And it's a great way to make the board more efficient, to share things, and in the spirit of open meetings law, like really knock it out of the park.
Jay?
And your view is
Number-
Slack is the best.
I don't know the other platforms. I can't.
I
talk
thought
to
I
them.
heard my
I do
name
think
called.
Slack is
Hang
great,
on.
but.
Hang on, let Rich
I was
finish.
just asking
Your
a
name is
just
follow-up,
asking
I
a
was simply
question.
asking a
Jay.
brief follow-up question.
Okay,
And I got the answer, so we can move on.
okay, Jay.
So a couple of questions. Number one, what about people that don't want to be on any of these streaming?
Virtual.
What is
remote,
the generic?
I mean, can I answer?
Yeah.
Analog. No.
My thought is it could be an opt-in and opt-out. Like right now amongst the committee, somebody's sending an article around, like
Yeah.
I did last week. You've done it. I think we've all done it at one point or another.
Mhm.
And then people weigh in and they respond.
Would this prevent you or me from sending an article
No,
to 3 people?
it would prevent you, I think it would probably prevent you from sending it to the 15 of us on the CB7 transportation email list. That the purpose of the email list would not be for that anymore. It would be for,
I'm not talking about an email list.
right, but what I'm saying
If I
is,
want to send an article to 4 or 5 people on a committee, what would that, by email?
I think it's you,
What
Jay
would
Amo,
that do?
sending it to 4 people you know,
As long as it's spoilable.
right? Well, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if it's,
Why does it have to be?
yeah, why
foiled?
does that have to be foilable?
But that's what the law requires.
If it's business related to the
You know,
board.
the Constitution.
But why is it,
The Constitution enshrines freedom of speech.
Of course it does, but it also.
You're talking to
Foil-
you're talking to a constitutional lawyer, so. I
okay,
know all
guys,
that.
this is not a competition.
But I think
that's right.
Doug said it. Go ahead,
Yeah.
say it again. Then,
What?
as long as it's not a business.
Well, if it's not business related, yeah, I mean, right, I mean, but then.
If it's related to the
that can
business of
be-
this board,
that's-
it's subject to the open meeting.
What does that mean?
That could be very
If I,
uh,
if,
subjective.
if I see an article that's related to a particular subject that the board or the committee has been considering, and I want to send it to 2 or 3 people.
Wow, this is really exciting. You mentioned it at your meeting last week, Elizabeth. And then I get it.
So what-
He decides to send it to only 4 of us.
Yeah,
And we were like, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. I wonder whether, like, is that board business? I don't think it is.
I don't think so. People are
No.
friends with each other.
Right.
Or-
That's what I'm saying.
Personal
Like, I think that's
communication.
the line we're trying to.
Theoretically.
No, I think there has to be an element of like, we're grownups, let's use our best judgment here. And I have noticed personally that when we, as a committee, sometimes, when we communicate, we oftentimes share our opinions. And I think that if people knew in some of their comments that they make in those conversations, if they knew, to Rich Robbins' point, that this was going to be something that was going to be read only by the public, they might, share it. And then, the comments might be a little bit more civil. I'm not saying they're not civil now, I'm just saying that I think it could be.
my concern is not for what would be fed into this comment
Right.
pot, but what wouldn't.
Right, I don't think there's anything that would be off limits to everybody on the committee would have access, everyone on the board would have access, or the committee would have access to the CB7 transportation Slack channel, right?
If I don't want to send something to that channel, I want to send it to you and Doug.
You send us
Use,
me,
use email.
Okay.
Or you
so
can pick up the phone.
There's nothing that would prevent.
or we go, meet up,
So
coffee
we,
and talk about it.
so what we've been
We
doing,
go analog,
So-
meet up in person.
so what we've been doing, we keep
And I
doing.
guess I think I know where you're getting at with this, is that you don't want to be afraid that you're gonna miss something that we're talking about through the Slack channel if you don't want to use the Slack channel. And the point is that what we're talking about on that channel would not be things that are mission critical to the functioning of the committee business. So for instance, if there were an agenda item where we were debating a clause in a resolution, we would not be debating that over Slack. That would be something that would be
Well,
done at a meeting.
We
or-
shouldn't be debating it anyway.
Exactly, but I'm saying if there were any procedural, if there were a draft of
If we
something that
send
you
the
were
draft of the
circulating.
guidelines for,
Exactly.
yeah.
That would not be going out over the Slack channel. It would be purely more for things where there are topics of interest that people might find interesting, that they want to read and share. And I agree, I like the idea of having the community have an opportunity to observe that and see what we're talking about. Where I think we may have to think a little bit more is how interactive we make that with the public. Because we had this with social media when we were starting 15 years ago as well, that I also launched with TV7, which was, it became quite onerous when we had a Facebook page to then have to respond to comments, all the comments that came in, and members of the public would get upset that we weren't being responsive to them if we weren't responding in real time to their questions. We didn't have the bandwidth at the staff office to be able to monitor the Facebook page. So similarly with Slack, I'm not sure how much interactivity, and Alex, maybe this is, I'm sure you have some thoughts on that piece of it, but I like the idea of the public, at least for open meetings purposes and FOIL purposes, whatever, being able to if they want to see what we're sharing amongst the committee informationally.
Yeah, I
My
think
con-
Rich Robbins is like, I think Rich Robbins' idea is, I didn't even think about that. I think it's genius, right? It's like Zoom, but 15 years, it's like, exactly. You could say, okay, and then someone says, hey, where's the facts about the loading zone thing? And here's my one. And then maybe someone could say, here's what we previously discussed. And actually, I think it's I didn't even think about that, but it's like even more transparent than I was thinking. It's kind of a cool idea.
Wait,
I don't know if people would actually use it, but maybe they would. I don't know.
Wait, you're losing me a little bit on that
Me
piece of
too.
it, because to me, that's going into board business.
I think it's
yeah.
easy. I think.
Yeah.
that-
Well, I'm just saying, like,
can be used for business
That's what I
purposes, and it
thought.
would be more transparent than we are.
But we
right,
have
right, like,
notice
right,
it.
like
You have to provide notice.
no, I'm
That's
just saying,
not
like,
where I was going with
imagine.
this. I was trying to be
Right.
as simple as possible, is to be like, hey, we have interesting conversations about matters, whether it's, you know, a pedestrian plaza and like, wow, look what's happening in Tokyo. I thought this would be interesting. Or, oh, look what's coming through the state legislature. Sean Abreu just got named the chair of the transportation committee in the city council. You guys should all know this. When can we get him, you know, like, I think there's sort of the conversational piece of this that we can do over a Slack channel. I think when I don't know, I'm open to
No, yeah,
other
I think-
things. I'm just
Right.
trying to keep
I
it
think
simple
so-
rather than go
right.
out with like some big thing.
Yeah, I think starting with what you're talking about, which is there's a transportation channel, everyone's in
Yeah.
it, you can join if you want, but there's read-only access from the public is quite nice because then the public could see, wow, what articles are they sharing? But then I was just in my brain thinking about, oh, you know what's like an even bigger extension of this, and maybe this is far down the road, but then like a channel where the public can communicate with the transportation. So instead of having to come to a meeting, etc., you could be like, hey, transportation, have you ever thought about discussing, bus transportation priority signaling? And then Andrew Al will be like, in fact, we discussed it 3 times. And it could be even more like conversational. You can see this on Twitter where like people say, DSNY, why didn't you pick up my thing? And then DSNY is responding. It's like, it would be very forward thinking is what I'm saying. But we don't have to
Yeah,
go there in the beginning.
And if we were all like full-time doing this for a living, I think that would be like a great thing to do. I think my suggestion is that we do this small thing and hit it out of the park and see where, if it's successful, then maybe we take it from there. I'm not trying to discourage. I think your idea, Alex, is obviously good, and Rich, thanks for bringing up we want to make things more accessible to the community, right? But what we don't want to do is go out with something and have it be a flop and then like people complain that like we haven't gotten back to them or we haven't, like, that's the worst thing we want to
Yeah.
do with
Rich-
this.
Rich-
I think it's like under promise and over deliver. It's right.
Rich had his hand up.
And I think we should cut the committee some slack.
So I have one specific example that I think is informative, which is, I've noticed the past few weeks when I've walked on Broadway at 107th Street, there's an MTA bus that's been using the daylighted area as a standing zone. And it completely blocks pedestrians from being able to see, vehicles traveling south on Broadway. It's something I feel like if I had been a member of the committee, I would have emailed it to the committee or at least to Andrew. I feel like my doing that now is kind of a step too far, but it's something that if there were a Slack channel where I could just post it and say, hey, committee, you might want to take a look at this. That could be a use case where the public could contribute. You could very clearly communicate to the public, we're not employees, we're not working 24/7 on this, but this could be a way of reaching the committee. And just be a forum for people to be able to say, here's something you might want to take a look at.
Well, I think where that, I think where that could be helpful, and again, this is further down the road. And Colleen, I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts on this are. Would be it being a more direct way for you as DOT to see what's coming into the community. So like all this stuff comes in and, once a week, somebody from your team or you guys look at it and you can see when these concerns or complaints are coming in. I just think the accountability piece is really tough because we're an advisory body, we're a board. We can't just say, hey, send us your complaints and like, we'll solve them for you. Like, that's, we can get the data there, but like, I think we need to be really careful about how we phrase it, which is why maybe we just, anyway, I've said enough. I just,
Yeah. I'll just say my concern is somebody who would, as co-chair, would have to read all this stuff. And would have to stay on top of it. It might
And police it.
might cut down on email a little bit, but it would add this whole new thing that I would have to start monitoring. And there is this thing, when you build a road, they will come. It's called induced demand.
yes.
I feel like we're gonna induce demand. And all of a sudden, and maybe that's a good thing, Alex, we want the community to be involved with the board more. But I'm just looking at my reading load and being very selfish about, and I'm sure other people in the
I think
community.
just a simple opt-in, here's the Slack channel, here's what the committee, here are some issues that the committee is
Yeah,
posting
but if you're
articles
on the
about.
committee, you're really gonna have to stay on top of it.
No, I'm saying for article, like for just the stuff that has been circulating on our emails back and forth over the last years that we've all had email, right, on this committee. People have shared articles, they've shared, and then people have opinions about them. All I'm saying is we do that same thing. We just do it over a Slack channel and then possibly make it read only to members of the public so that we get out of the whole FOIL issue.
We gotta stop, we gotta end this pretty quick
Yeah.
soon, but.
That's all.
This is a bigger issue for later. I'm just, when I was vice chair, we talked a lot about increasing the communication between the public, getting information from the public and responding to it, and then getting our information out to the public. So it's almost like we're describing a CB7 311. Right now we have the CB7 email address, which goes, I guess Alex has access to it and Jesse. And then what happened when Penny was here, right? Those emails that would come in through constituent services would then be disseminated to the appropriate committees if applicable, right? So maybe we're trying to think of a more high-tech way and a more efficient way of doing this and not, someone sends an email and it goes out to the ether. So at least you can see something. I'm just sort of spitballing here, but the idea that this is obviously not just for this committee, because this could be disseminated for all committees, right? You can a Slack channel for each committee. But anyway, it's germinating in my head, but just thinking about better communication bilaterally between the community back and forth.
So I'm happy to work with you. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I'm happy to work with you guys. If you want to close this up, I'm happy to work on this as a next step. I do think Jesse is somebody that our district manager is somebody we absolutely need to bring into this conversation and make sure it's something that he is aware of. She'll have some suggestions on what.
Let's just hear from Rich and then
Move
let's,
on.
move on.
Just two quick thoughts. One is arguably the committee and the board should be looking at all 311 complaints about the district and at least seeing the data. And there's a limit to what the committee or the board can be expected to do. And that's not happening now. And I mean, I don't think anyone's saying you should be doing so much more. Also, again, now there are three of us random people here. I don't think there's that much worry about getting bombarded with public, with things from the public, and if you did, it'd be a high-class problem if people are actually paying attention. And again, if you're really clear about what the parameters are and what the expectation should be, I don't think that opening that, I don't think it's that big a can of worms to open.
So maybe Elizabeth, you want to talk to Jesse and maybe flesh this out a little bit and make a proposal?
And we
Or-
could, like, I mean, over the course of the next month or
Yeah.
hopefully month or two, we could like do a test. I don't wanna say to people like, don't send stuff over email this month, but like, you know, maybe we could try, if I set it up, something up, we could try to see, like I could send an article around to people over
Mhm.
Slack and see what they. How they
As
like
like a pilot?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, all right, so I think we're ready for
it. The goal
MTA.
is to make your guys' lives easier, not.
Are we
Yeah.
done with new business?
No, we're still in
We're
new,
still, okay.
we're gonna be in it for a while. We're up to MTA update.
Okay, I'm gonna try to keep it local because there's a lot of things, but they're not local. And I know that Jay has real problems when I bring up things from other boroughs, so I will try to not do that. MTA
I'm
is one of
curious,
the
so.
few sorry?
I'm curious about everything, so. I think that's
MTA is one of the few
ready.
transit systems that really survived that big snowstorm. Everything kept running as opposed to across the river in New Jersey where pretty much everything just shut down.
Hmm.
And other cities on the East Coast had real issues. We ran everything. And they were really genius by making expresses run on the local tracks and putting snow removal trains on the express tracks. They were able to move those around the system and get snow and ice off the third rail and off other places that needed to be. I mean, it was really a great move. I told them that was just wonderful. We also had 1.9 billion riders in 2025. That beats pre-pandemic, in fact.
Really?
So people are definitely returning to the system, which is great. Also, people are filling out the customer surveys and they've had the highest approval ratings that they've pretty much ever had. So the service has gotten better and things are getting better. Metro North will not be running to Albany anytime soon. Amtrak got the feeling that the pressure is on them because of the work they're doing on the East River tunnels. They've cut by 3 trains, the trains to upstate New York. They are going to be returning them in March because they don't want the competition from Metro North, but the MTA is still going to try doing that at some point and serving those upper Hudson communities. If you've ever ridden through Nostrand Junction in Brooklyn, where the 2, 3, 4, and 5 all meet, that's a real problem area. And so because expresses are crossing over to locals, because the 2 and the 5 are going to Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn College, and the 3 and the 4 are going to Utica or New Lots. Well, they're going to move some trains from rush hour to the right after rush hour period in an attempt to try to get that service better and not delay people as much. So that'll be very interesting. The third provider of the new fare gates, which is S Traffic, it's a Korean firm, has installed their version at 23rd Street, Baruch College. If anybody's gone to see it, and you have, Howard. Yeah, it's better than the one that's at Broadway Lafayette in some ways. I asked the people who are watching it. People are still beating them. New Yorkers are really athletic and ingenious, but
I saw people really close together go through.
yeah, there are some of these won't let you do that, but I don't know that one is one of them. After the Blue Ribbon Panel on Fare Evasion gave their final report at Grand Central a few years ago, all of these demonstration turnstiles were there and we all tried to beat them, and some of them we tried to go through with multiple people and you couldn't do it on some of them. So hopefully we'll get the best of those. There's been a complete redo of the Laurelton Long Island Railroad Station, which is now accessible and beautiful. And so that's a great thing. 41 elevators have been replaced. Elevators have been failing at an unfortunate rate. They're replacing them at a rate they've never done before, and there are 10 newly accessible stations already. And they're making stations much more accessible, much more quickly now. And I will say that here's one that's really local. The M57 bus, which is the 57th Street Crosstown, which goes all the way up to 72nd Street, now has ACE cameras on it. So West End Avenue and 72nd Street will have people not blocking the bus lanes, hopefully, because you'll get the fines. The first fine is $50, then it goes up to $250, and it keeps building. And that's all.
Great.
Thank you.
One,
Really
one comment
helpful.
on that, if I may.
Yeah.
I have noticed, I mentioned it at the last full board meeting, that the ACE program is wonderful and it is, the data is very clear that when people get a fine, they stop getting more fines. And that's usually a sign of better behavior. Unfortunately, however, it is also, I've seen personally, and I know I'm in touch with many people across the city in our neighborhood as well. It does induce bad behavior, namely, the ACE cameras are on the front of the buses, they go up to the back of the vehicle. I have thousands of examples that I have access to of people putting the ingenuity is amazing, but they'll do block their license plate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know someone has gotten an ACE bus ticket because they blocked their back license plate, not their front license plate, because the buses don't capture folks' front license plates. So I've got to, be in my bonnet when it comes to citizen complaint programs, because we know that they work when it comes to idling. I think that would be a great way to supplement the ACE program, is to just say, all right, the bus driver can't get out of the bus and go
Right.
and take the sock or piece of cardboard or plastic tape. I've seen
Not
people
tape.
put tape to
Yeah.
change the digits of their
Yeah.
license plates, right? I'm just saying that it's the easiest thing in the world for me to just go, oh, look at this front license plate, back license plate, send it to the city, problem solved. And I know that that's a little bit tough for the MTA, to think about doing themselves, but there is a technical solution already working for the city right now when it comes to idling trucks and buses that I think would genuinely mean our tickets would go down because of good behavior, not because of bad behavior.
Some of those same people are making sure you don't read their front plates so they don't get charged the congestion fee.
100%.
So for those of us on the committee, you hear me ask this every month pretty much. I will say, as it relates to the M57, which I take almost daily in both directions. The bus lane is,
Hope you're taking it both directions.
well, in other words, I take different modes of transport in between trains and buses. But anyway, what I've seen, and I've reported it to you, I've shown you videos of it, where you'll have 25 cars lined up in the bike lane, I'm sorry, in the bus lane. And I asked Demetrius this in person, and I said, you have a car, the first car in the 25 cars and the last car, and the license plates in between are not readable. And therefore, and this is what happened tonight on my way here. And their car services and all the way just up and down, the entire bus lane is blocked. I don't understand any way an ACE camera can pick up license plates when cars are bumper to
No,
bumper.
it can't.
So if you have 25 cars, you might get 2
Right.
tickets. So
Tell you what I can do. Each of us could go and do that every.
put your camera between the
You absolutely.
park car, sure.
I do that all the time.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and the other question I have, which I know is sort of rhetorical at this point, I'd like to know.
One quick question
Yeah.
before you go further.
Mhm.
Those cars that are lined up, are the drivers in them?
Some are, some are not. Some are there, they're the black Suburbans that are picking up, and there's no booth, they're just, but it's egregious. It's unbelievable. And now the bus is back to back in the travel lane, not in the bus lane, keep saying bike lane, not in the bus lane. The question I keep asking, and I just want it for the record, and I don't know why the information is so hard. We had about $900 million in fare evasion last year. We have I've, seen the Eagle team, and I ask you this particularly with buses. How many violations were issued, whether, with the police or transit or whatever it was last year and year to date 2026, and how many have been collected? I want to know, because I keep hearing it's gonna get better and better and better, and it is sport. If you take the M7, the M11, the M104, I can go on and on, you just.
Bus
It's,
fare evasion is horrific.
it is horrific. I don't see enough being done about it, and I wanna know
They're gonna be
quantitatively.
inspecting.
Because I just wanna say,
Yeah.
this is, now I'm getting pissed. This is years of, no, I'm serious, because we had wonderful people that you brought to this committee and have asked the questions, we'll get back to you. This is our money. And $900 million, what are we doing about it? I don't wanna put people in jail. I'm not looking,
It's between
I don't
900
personally
and a
want this to be a
billion.
revenue center. I want it to be a
You
deterrent, but
just said
how
that they're putting
many
gates.
violations have been issued to date? How much has been collected? I want that number, and I think
I'm
it's
trying
fair to
get it.
ask.
I can try to get it, but as I think reported last month, they're moving to inspect Omnis and your phone to see when you last paid. So they'll have fare inspectors on board buses. They're
Looking
doing
forward
that.
to seeing them.
And,
Yeah.
and what happens if you don't pay? What happens if they find you didn't pay? What is
You'll
the consequence?
get fined.
You get a
$100, I think.
If you get enough of those, you could be banned from the system.
Oh, wow.
Well,
What's enough?
And then, there was a former MTA police chief who wanted fare evaders, if you had 5 or more incidents where you didn't pay, you would be banned from the system, and if you were caught in the.
So
system,
you'd
would be
have to evade the
arrested-
fare.
You would be arrested for trespassing.
Okay, got it.
okay, well, we gotta move on.
What
Um,
Car, excuse
what is the update
Yeah.
on detour for cyclists?
let's forget about it.
You don't even want that?
Let's
I
do it.
have
Okay.
two
107th
things for
Street.
new business whenever you're ready.
Well, we have the one on City Bike.
Oh, that was one of them.
Okay,
The city
We-
bike's locked in
we
the
were
snow
gonna-
to this day, and it's over 2 weeks
right.
since.
Well, we have a video,
I just hope
Cue-
the sound
queued
will
up to
work.
introduce the,
We'll see if the sound works.
You did a good one of these too.
Here, sorry, let me unmute
That
myself.
person looks so familiar.
Where's that?
Okay, let's see
Who
if
is
this works.
Is this okay? Oh, no, 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 oh, no, it's, no.
Okay, I think
Oh, that's rich.
Closer to.
Great echo.
I don't know if we can do the sound.
Well, he can voice over right here.
Yeah, you-
what's the point? They're frozen.
But they didn't do anything to dig them out.
Excavate.
Yeah,
Situations coming.
Oh,
Have you
it's
seen
not
some of the bus
playing.
stops? You have to climb over giant mountains of snow to get to the bus.
Once across the street from me.
city fixed though.
Oh, wait, is that Rich?
Some of them.
That's
not all.
Rich.
Shoveling?
yeah.
Wow. Hope you got paid for that.
So you're doing it. This just doesn't-
In the video, he says it took me 5 minutes to shovel, about half the dock.
Because you shovel so fast.
Yeah, look how fast.
Yeah. And the cars are really speeding, you notice.
Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, whoa.
Wow,
But what,
that car.
What?
was
I understand this is the responsibility of Lyft, not of Rich's.
Yeah, I
So
was making
Yeah,
the
what's-
point that. in
what's the
5
point?
minutes, I could
Yeah,
clear a lot of
the
stuff.
point is, what do we do? They're violating their agreement with the city. What's
Well,
the
what's the
recourse?
point of watching? Rich
Where are the
shovel?
bikes?
just-
I didn't put it on.
Where are
It's
the
interesting.
bikes?
We're just
Joe?
showing, we're showing the issue.
Okay, so what do we do about the issue?
Any ideas?
You've got this money that you're looking to spend, buy shovels and donate them to Lyft.
Yeah.
Again, it's Colleen from T.
I'm
Next
calling.
question.
Hey, it's
Oh.
Colleen. Unfortunately, I had no idea that station was piled with snow. And I mean, we all know that we had a terrible storm, and it took a while for Lyft to get around to do the cleanup. I mean, in the future, when this happens, if you could just send me an email with the location, I will notify Lyft, and they can have their team go out there and make sure that the station is cleared and clean. That would be helpful.
Well, as of about at least 3 days ago, that was pretty much all the stations on the Upper West
If you want to
Side.
put it on the screen, I don't know if you
Yeah,
can.
I'll
I sent it
try.
to your email.
Email? Okay, yeah.
I mean, are you aware of that, Colleen? They were all locked in.
Well, I'm not aware of it. It's the first time I'm hearing of it. I think the best thing to do next time is to please email me directly, and I'll reach out to Lyft. Don't
Okay.
wait until I come to the transportation committee meeting to flag this. to me, just send it to me ahead of time ASAP.
This is something we could all agree on. It's Lyft's responsibility.
Yeah.
So it's their
It is.
failure, not the city, it's not the community board, it's not yours, it's not any, it's Lyft.
And Mother Nature.
But at
It
least
is,
come-
and we work very closely with Lyft, so, you know, I serve as the conduit to them. You know, I can let them know that, hey, the station needs to be clean, or it hasn't been cleaned, when will the snow removal, you know, when will the snow get removed? You know, I'm more than happy to do that, to reach out to them and let them know, because we have a great relationship with them.
Great, I just
Thank
sent
you,
Sophia
Colin.
a picture of the Columbus Circle City Bike Station 2 weeks after the snowstorm, and I don't know if you could bring it up. It's
Okay.
solid, it's packed in solid, it's totally
Mhm.
unusable. And this is Columbus Circle, it's a very busy place.
We get it.
And the problem is that you can have a station where you take the bike out, it's okay, it's working, but you don't know whether the station you're going to, you're gonna be able to dock it.
Of course.
That's, I haven't been riding since the snowstorm. because
Oh, there
of
it is. That's my
Ah.
picture.
Wow.
It's unusable. That's Columbus Circle.
Yeah, well,
It's like
That was how
benchmark
long?
streets where the
And,
cars
you know, the thing
go.
is too, it's like, you know, I don't want to lay blame on any other agency. I mean, we did get a lot of snow. And, you know,
Creepy.
with the cleaning, you know, we know that the snow gets pushed to the curb. Even with the bus stop, with the shelters, snow gets, you know, into the shelters, and we have JC Deco come out there, and they have their contractors clean the shelter for DOT. So, you know,
Yeah.
as Andrew mentioned, Mother Nature wasn't kind to us this season, so.
yeah.
Thank you, Colleen, though. Now we know to immediately flag it. So
Yes,
that's really-
please
That's
immediately
very
flag it
helpful.
to me. Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Colleen.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Great.
All
Okay,
right.
I think we're
So
done.
I think we're done
right?
with-
Yeah, unless you have
Oh, I had
another
one other thing.
item.
I was busy this is for Alex, busy last night. Why, I understand there was a discussion of street safety in a task force and not, I just don't know why that was. Why we didn't have it here?
It's a
I mean,
public
it's a,
safety.
okay,
What-
yeah,
Oh, well, but anyone can
Yeah,
answer. I'm throwing it out there. I didn't mean to put Alex
according
on
to
the
our,
spot.
according to our bylaws, the co-chairs of a committee or task force can actually just speak about whatever they want. So, you know, Health and Human Services could talk about preservation issues. I mean, we don't have anything that specifically
That doesn't
says.
sound like an efficient way to run the board, though.
Okay, great. But the agreement, the adhered upon agreement is that when discussing something related to a committee, you know, you would obviously include and be respectful and include that. Jamie and I also talked about this one, and there was no resolution discussed that night. So yeah, I think it's well within Jamie's decision to have it, and it was noticed 72 hours beforehand, although just 72 hours, but that's okay. But anyway, I think it's well within the bylaws.
Whether, I'm not going
I'm
to the
right
whether
here,
it's,
Howard, I'm right here.
yeah, I know you're
Yeah.
there. I'm here, and so is everyone. I'm
Yeah,
just
I'm
questioning
talking to
why
Howard.
this was set up when there's already a standing committee charged with this very issue.
I can answer that
Okay,
question.
anyway, I don't care who answers.
At January's meeting of this
Excuse me.
committee,
Excuse me, I'm gonna speak because what I'm tired as the chair of this task force, and this happened last night as well. No offense to you, Alex Bell, but I'm the chair of the task force and I'll speak as the chair of the task force. I'm sorry, but let me just speak and then you can say whatever you have to say, and then Alex, you can say what you have to say. But you know, men, so
Say
I'm
it,
that-
here.
you know,
I'm
that's
here,
bullshit.
I'm here,
Men.
I'm here, Howard. I'm
Oh,
over
I just
here.
want an answer. I
I'm
don't
over
care
here,
who
Howard.
gives it to me.
I'm over here, Howard.
I know you're there.
Okay,
all right,
I
so-
see.
Jamie, go.
Yeah.
So there was a meeting of a public safety task force where we had a conversation about e-vehicle safety. The task force, as you know, has different notice requirements and rules than does a standing committee. There was no desire to dismiss anybody or disrespect anybody or pull the wool over anybody's eyes. In fact, Ken was there. There was no resolution on the table, and indeed, there won't be a resolution on the table probably for a couple of months. When we have a resolution on the table, your committee has asked to come and join. Parks and Environment has asked to come and join. We're gonna have a big rollicking joint meeting that will be almost the size of the full board. And we are open to doing that. This was just a conversation about an ongoing issue that is an issue of transportation, honestly, an issue of parks,
And
and as well an issue of public safety.
I guess,
I think
can
Jay is next
yeah.
to speak, but
Oh,
I
just want to be
was-
clear about my
Let me
question.
just- let
I
me
think my
just
question is
finish by
misunderstood.
saying-
Okay.
Let me
Jamie,
just
I'm
finish by
chairing
saying
this-
that I
we're
was feeling
chairing.
frustrated,
You are.
frustrated.
I
Yeah,
was.
but you may be, but I was mentioned, and so I'm responding.
I know, but
I'm feeling frustrated as of last night and all through today, that as chair
It's
of the
obvious.
meeting yesterday, as chairing the meeting yesterday, even though I had my agenda and I was chairing the meeting, often the chair is overlooked.
I just want to say, my question is being misunderstood. Thank you for the information. I was asking a somewhat different question. Why was the task force set up? That's what I was getting at. When we already have a standing committee that's charged with those issues. That's what I'm asking.
That's all been addressed at
Oh,
the full.
then I
board.
missed it.
Can I
Okay,
finish
then-
now?
Why was the committee set up or why was the subject matter?
The
Why
committee.
was, yes, I don't
The
remember.
task force.
The task,
Oh, yes, task force. Well,
I'm happy to answer the question.
Okay,
Anyone.
Jay, why don't you?
The reason, there were a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a public safety task force. Probably the preeminent issue of public safety within this district is e-bikes. That's the first answer. The second answer is that in January, I brought up the question of whether this committee should revisit the issue of e-bike safety. And the co-chair of the committee said that there was no reason to do so because we did it 4 years ago and everybody knows how we feel about it. That's why.
Can I?
That's
just
why
respond to
I
that?
requested that issue be taken up at last night's meeting. And I requested that Jamie invite the representative from EFSA to make a presentation about the up-to-date state of affairs with regard to e-bikes.
So it was kind of an end run around this committee.
It's not an end run. You're the one that said you weren't gonna bring it up at this
Well,
committee.
I rest my case.
I was present, sorry, I'm on the board, I'm on the Parks Committee, and I was present at a meeting this year, I believe. This calendar year, where there was a joint meeting of this committee
Last
and the
month.
Parks Committee. I think.
That
it
was on the parks plan.
Yeah, and it discussed
And you were
the
also on the
issue,
working group.
and thank you, and it discussed the issue of public safety. So the idea that the working group and that this committee are not dealing with vehicle safety, so-called, is just not accurate. We had a meeting. I don't call who
Yeah, I
all
just
was there,
wanna-
but we had a meeting about this exact issue, specifically about the parks.
I remember that.
And it was at the Transportation Committee, and there's a Public Safety Committee. I don't understand the idea that the task force, excuse me, that we're not dealing with this issue. Of course we're dealing with this issue.
Last month, just to respond, when we talk about the discretionary spending, I've given 2 meetings now of opportunity of how we can talk about e-vehicles and how we can address it through infrastructure and design ideas. And I feel like I'm the one that's bringing the solutions here. And I think last time when we talked about licensing and registration, we said that we need more information and more verified information. And what I mean by that is that DOT did a really good study that showed that this would cost nearly $20 million implementing this. And there's like a summary of the study, but we can see if DOT can share the full study so we can fully understand why DOT actually has publicly stated that they're not pro doing this. And I think
Which
that,
thing would cost $20 million?
Sorry, what?
What's
For
for
this,
this that would cost
for
$20?
the
The-
city to implement
Right.
it?
yeah, for
Yeah.
them to implement licensing and registration.
Yeah,
I can send you the link, Jamie.
It's basically a non-issue because it should be done at the state
State level.
level where every other
I was
vehicle
just asking
is
for more
regulated.
information.
Which is
So
what our
if it
resolution
could-
said.
If it could cost 300 million or 800 million for the city to do it, doesn't matter.
I think there's other barriers there, and if you read the study, you'll understand their position on it, so I'm just encourage you to read it.
Elizabeth?
Yes, I haven't spoken out on this, and a lot of the information and discussion about e-vehicles and e-bikes has come up. It came up during Jamie and my tenure, it came up during Andrew's tenure, it came up during Mark. It's come up for years and years and years and years on this board. It also is cut across committees, so I think we can all agree that like no particular committee or task force like has complete ownership of the issues related to e-bikes. They're cross-cutting, okay? I think the issue at hand in this particular case was that there was a meeting to discuss with EBSA that came to be within 72 hours. And I personally, I think it would have been great if we could have gotten a notification from the transportation co-chair, since it has been such a major focus of this committee. I know we're supposed to be reading what comes up in checking, the website and everything else. But I think for you guys, if you guys could just give us the heads up next time and maybe just.
I didn't
we
even
did
know
not-
it was
we did not
happening.
get
It's fine, but
Let me-
somehow everyone knew about
We
it.
did not get it.
That's the whole point, is they,
They.
that there was an end run allegedly.
It's not an
No, no,
end
no, no,
run.
no, no, no,
It's
no,
not
no,
an
no.
end run.
My point is whoever, whether it was Jamie or whoever.
We
I
did
just
not,
think-
let me just say, as a co-chair, we did not get any official notice about this. I heard about it through a channel that was informal, and
Okay,
it was
then
on
maybe this
Friday,
is an
it was
Alex
on
question
Friday
then.
afternoon.
I think because this is, if I could just.
And
finish
it
my
wasn't,
point.
it wasn't posted to the calendar until late
Okay.
Friday
It
afternoon.
was
That's
on the
okay.
website.
If I could just give me 1 second here. Alex, I think it would be great then, if you as the chair of the board, this is a very big lightning rod issue that impacts all 50 of us. I think when something like this comes across the pike, it would be great to notify the 50 board members that it's happening. Especially when
good
it's at the
idea.
11th hour.
Not to mention the public.
Good idea.
Sure.
I think we'll do that. I think we'll do that going forward. Good comments from everyone. Just to
And that's
clarify,
it, that's all I want to say.
task forces
Right.
have the same notice requirement and public
Yes.
meeting rules as all other committees, so it's no difference
Right.
as stated in our bylaws. But good point. I think we could have done a better job getting it out earlier and also, messaging more people and good feedback for later. Thank you.
Jamie?
I say for the record, I welcome everyone at this committee and from the board and the public to come to our public safety task force meetings. As Rich said earlier, I wish we had that Pandora's box problem. I'd like to have more engagement. So come to the meetings. I don't know when we're gonna take up a resolution on e-vehicle safety, but you are all welcome to come and weigh in on it.
Howard?
You will follow the rules of order, though, at the committee.
Okay, it's all very interesting, but it has nothing to do with my original question. Why was this, given that e-vehicles are clearly within the Transportation Committee's purview, why is there a separate committee dealing with this issue? That's my fundamental question.
It's not a committee.
I
The
can-
task force,
It's
It's
is
effectively a committee,
I can,
Or,
answer it.
I-
It's not a committee, it's a task force.
but it has all the,
I will rephrase it. Why is there a totally separate body
Because
dealing with
this
something?
committee refuses
No,
to
that's
deal
not,
with
that's
it.
not the right
accurate. That
answer,
is
Jay.
Well, that's what
literally
they
talked
said.
about it.
Let
What you
Jamie
said
give
in
the answer.
January.
Jamie's gonna give the answer.
Alex, would you like to answer or shall I?
No, I think Jamie should answer. This is
boss.
not the task force. Yeah, Jamie will answer.
Okay, Alex is the boss on this, but I can answer. You probably missed the full board where this was explained, and there's actually a public document that lays out why this happened.
Oh, I did miss one.
Last year, and I think it may have been that meeting. Last year, there were a number of public safety issues. This was not one of them, actually. But there were, actually, the criminal summons issue
Yes.
was an issue. So there were a number of public safety issues across the board that landed in various committees. Ken handled one at HHS. We had the e-vehicle summons issue of transportation, and I could go on. There are probably a half dozen issues that landed in various committees that could well have fallen in a public safety, or we might call it community safety context. And that raised the question for Beverly and then for Alex and for me of whether they might be better housed in a public safety task force or committee. So there was a public safety working group that came together, some of whom remain on the task force and some of whom have gone on to do greater and better things with their time. That came together to ask the question whether it would be worth examining over a short 6-month period, which is what we're in now, the viability of such a group. And that's what this group is. And so this group, the task force, will examine a series of issues that have been identified that are of a public safety nature, though of course they, as Elizabeth said, cut across the board and other committees. So that's the answer to the question. And at the end of the 6 months, we will determine, or I guess Alex will determine, as the all-powerful board chair that he is, whether the task force continues for another 6 months, is dismantled, or becomes.
I completely understand now. I just wish it were more efficiently allocated to the committee that has the responsibility for the issue, but again.
Okay,
Sorry, just one last
Yeah.
question, just to kind of close the loop on it. Because we talked about the discretionary spending, so I was curious, you as chair of that task force, like, because you saw that I categorized, right?
I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
So I was wondering, those are public safety concerns, so do you think that we are getting at those concerns, and maybe if some of those solutions are addressing the concerns that you heard at that task force the other night?
You were talking about the discretionary funding, you were talking about the federal
Yeah.
funding.
Mhm.
I don't want to reopen that
Yeah.
conversation.
I'm just curious if the concerns are reflected in that, in the
Somewhat.
solutions.
It's a different
Mhm.
Can I
path.
give a brief answer, Joe?
Right, well, that's up to the chair.
thank you.
Sophia, the stuff that you posted, which are physical
Which we can
solutions,
spend money on.
which is
Well,
fine.
you may be able to.
Just,
Mhm.
just quickly, if they could be implemented, I think most of them are, if they were doable, could be effective.
Yeah.
And I know personally, I would support them. What we discussed was not the physical solutions. We discussed registration, those issues, insurance, and so they both converge on the concern for public safety, but they're two different
Mhm.
pathways to get there.
I understand,
That's
yeah.
the difference.
I
And we
think
dis-
that
and we
DOT
discussed
study
some
will
other
be really
things as well
helpful.
that are,
Mhm.
some other things.
Okay.
And just
Doug?
on background, going 30,000 feet up. So we, as a board, had a public safety task force. We then spun it up into a committee. It was not particularly successful. Then I was the public safety coordinator, trying to do as much as I could possibly do, visiting every precinct and speaking with everything from the NYPD to the DA, and that was a lot for me to do. And then there was public cry from the community saying that we should reconstitute
Right.
a public safety task force working group or committee. So, and it's a large swath of things that we want to discuss. It is everything from the 7 major crimes, anything and everything, NYPD, legislative. It's all of it as it relates to public safety. We actually have many meetings to try to define the scope of what the public safety task force should actually be focusing on. How wide of a net should we cast? One of the issues, the subset of many issues, including retail theft, again, anything major crime, I mean, hate crimes, you name it, it's all gonna be in there. One of the subsets happens to be e-bike safety because it is discussed constantly at every elected official's office and community council meeting at every NYPD. So that is it's one item. It's not the purview. I mean, it's not the it's not the majority reason that this task force is formed. This is one small part of it.
Okay, we're almost at 8:30 and.
Just one question for
Right.
Colleen, while we still have you, and I think I mentioned this in my email to you, is that study from DOT on licensing and insurance public for us to access and read through?
I'm not sure if it's on our website, but I can check, Sophia, and if it is, I'll share with you the link.
Okay, thank you. I just think that would really help ground our discussion. Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you,
Oh,
Colleen.
You had a question?
Yeah, well, I have a. something I'd
Comment?
like to- ask the committee, this group about whether you're a committee or, never mind.
We're a committee.
Task force. But it was, a very interesting topic, public safety, the e-bikes and e-scooters, public safety. Come to you another day for that. My name is Len Wasserman. I'm a retired lawyer. I'm on the, committee of the, New York State Bar Association called the Committee on Animals and the Law. And we're very engaged in public safety issues for animals, welfare of animals. And the issue of the horses in Central Park and the number of accidents that, horses get involved in out on the street is becoming an issue we were hoping we could raise with the community board, because we think it would probably involve enactment of local laws or regulations to deal with the horses in the park and on the streets. We are hoping that we could find a way to move the horses out of the streets, out of the garages over on West 57th Street, all the way to 10th, 11th Avenue, and restable them in the park. We'd have to build more stables. There'd be old stables on 86th Street. And we figured that we believe that would be a matter that you would that CB7 would have to look at, and we want you to look at it. So I was hoping I could just create an opportunity here to come and bring my colleagues, talk with you guys about what we're thinking of proposing as a way of moving the horses back to the parks. We believe it would be an effort to protect the horses and also to protect the people in the streets, public, it's the same topic you've been discussing.
Yeah,
Tonight. So,
actually,
is that a possibility? Can I
well,
connect with-
we actually took this up a couple of years ago.
Oh.
And
Even this summer, I think,
Well,
just recently.
but we actually had a resolution, right?
There was a
A
hearing
couple of
in
years
March.
ago, and this was when they were proposing stabling the horses in the park.
Right.
And I think, as I recall, we opposed that, and we also opposed, I think we took a position on,
About the
About the-
electric
get-
carriages.
right, that's right. We said we didn't want the electric carriages.
But we have not really discussed
The,
the issue, I think part of the issue that you're talking about, which is the roadway and the distance between the stables and the park.
you
Which,
mean getting them off the streets?
yeah, which I think cuts across our district and the district to the south of us, right?
Mhm.
So, I think we've kept our debate and discussions to what's going on inside Central Park and not
Yeah.
the issue.
I'd rather wait until there's actually legislation there's council legislation that has to be reintroduced,
Right.
because it's a new council session.
We were just
So-
wondering what your
Yeah, we
ideas are about that. If we could come and talk with you perhaps.
And our Parks Committee as
Yeah.
well would be the
Mhm.
logical, they can give you the information for the Parks chairs.
yeah,
Yeah, Parks Committee, absolutely.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Thank you.
We definitely will be talking about it once the legislation.
Can we talk about it afterwards? Can you give me emails, telephone numbers?
You
I
can
connect people?
reach me through the board office. Reach
Or
us
leave
through
your
the board.
contact information here with me and I can reach out to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
Okay, thank you for
Okay.
coming.
We'd like to get it started. It could take years.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
We'd like to get it started.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank
Um,
you.
Okay,
I
so,
think that's it for new business,
yeah,
right?
so we're gonna have to throw everybody out of the room who is not a member of the committee. Because we're gonna go into executive session and talk about executive issues.
Executive issues of the transportation.
Or just the transportation.
Okay,
But-
are you closing the Zoom also? I think you gotta close the Zoom, right?
Are we closing Zoom? Is Alex is
Yeah, we
asking?
gotta close Zoom.
Okay, just.
Alex, is there a way to do it with cutting the public and keeping you on, or?
You could manually do it, but I think it's better to close the Zoom, so hit the end meeting button.
But Carrie, then Carrie can't.
Oh, that's right, Carrie needs to be.
Carrie,
Okay, so.
Well, I don't know, he's, Alex is saying it's, there's a way to do it.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. The wasp54@gmail.com. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that actually would be.
Okay, I'm just saying. more
So
for-
So are we losing Alex and Carrie?
Carrie, do you want to be part of the executive session? I don't know technically how we can do it. I think Alex is recommending we shut down the Zoom, but I don't want to exclude you.
No,
I'm
I'll
fine
kick
if you
off
want to shut
everyone
down the
else.
Zoom.
It's okay. I'll kick off everyone else. You can stay
Oh,
on.
okay, so Carrie can stay. And everybody
Yeah,
else will,
one-
okay, so we're not shutting the Zoom. So
1 second.
Alex is gonna kick everybody else off except
I have to
Carrie.
kick everyone
No,
off.
but
yeah.
Alex is
He's
working it
gonna-
now.
Alex
Oh,
is
he
gonna
is,
keep-
okay.
Try to keep
Thank